Hi, I forgot to mention this in the video, so this is editing me talking. But the reason I care about this is because I'm bi. So I just realized I never actually said that or why I care. I'm bisexual, that's why I care. Before I get started, major spoiler warning for all of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. So if you have not seen it, all 5 seasons are available on Netflix, and if you don't care about spoilers, keep watching. When I was in 6th grade, my super cool 8th grade friend told me to read a comic called Lumberjanes. She reassured me that I should read it because of all the LGBT characters in it, and naturally, that was all it took to convince me. At that point, the only queer representation I was exposed to was Degrassi and Glee, which aren't the prime examples of what good representation is. Lumberjanes was the first time where I was just seeing characters be queer and have that not be their whole character. Yes, Mal and Molly were a couple, but their arcs weren't about them being lesbians, it was about their insecurities and working through them together. Noelle Stevenson and the other women behind Lumberjanes had created what I thought was the best queer representation I was going to find. However, I am so glad I was wrong. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power is a reboot of the classic 80s cartoon. The 80s version was less focused on telling a compelling story and more focused on selling toys, as pretty much all cartoons were back in those days. However, in today's day and age, just a 20-minute toy commercial isn't going to cut it as a good show. In a world where we have cartoons like Avatar: The Last Airbender and Gravity Falls and Steven Universe, cartoons now more than ever focus on story, creating for some of the best animated works of all time. And thankfully, She-Ra has a beautiful, masterfully told story, a love story between the two female leads. The key to She-Ra's
Now, come
success in
on. You look
presenting queer
stupid hanging
narratives
down
and
there.
characters is that it's created by queer people. Noelle
You
Stevenson,
should
the
have seen your
creator of
face.
She-Ra, is
You were like,
shockingly a lesbian,
no,
and therefore knows more about
betrayal.
writing
I know,
lesbians than
but
a
for some reason,
non-lesbian
it's
would.
always funny.
Not only
Adora.
that,
What'd
but
she
queer
say?
people know
Thanks,
how to
what's that?
write
You
the queer
kidding? That
narratives
is
that queer
awesome.
people
We're gonna see
want
the
to
world.
see. One of my main pet
They
peeves
let
when
me
it
drive
comes
a
to straight
tank.
writers
Can you
writing
believe it?
LGBT
Catra, I don't
characters
Matter what they
is
do.
only
The two
including
of us look out
one
for
gay
each other.
friend in
And
an
soon we'll be
otherwise
the ones
all
calling the
straight
shots.
friend group.
Not
No
going home,
self-respecting
Catra.
gay
I can't.
person is
Not
going
after
to
everything
hang
I've
out
seen.
with exclusively
Come with
straight
me.
people.
You don't have to
That's
go
like
back there. We
basically
can fix
self-harm.
this.
She-Ra includes one of the largest cast of queer characters
Why are
that
you
I
doing
have
this?
personally ever seen. There's the main
Because you
character
left me.
Adora, who is gay and in love with the other main character, Catra, who is also gay. Bo has 2 gay dads, Scorpia is gay as she admits to having a crush on Catra at one point, Double Trouble is gender nonconforming and goes by they-them pronouns, Kyle and Rogelio are boyfriends, Natasha and Spinnerella are married to each other, and Perfuma falls in love with every tall, buff
Why are you
woman
looking
she
at me like that?
encounters.
Wait. No.
This creates a
I
level
know
of
what this is
realism
about.
within She-Ra,
Ugh, I
as
knew
queer
you'd be
people
weird about me
tend to
letting you
gravitate
escape.
to
I told
other
you it's
queer
not because
people.
I like you.
I mean,
So while
I didn't
Adora's
say
best friends, Bo and
Anyway,
Glimmer,
what are
are
you doing out
quote-unquote
here? Where are your new
straight,
best friends?
there are still lots of other LGBT people in her life. Also, I would like to further reiterate the fact the main character of a children's cartoon is a lesbian. And not like in Legend of Korra, where it's very subtle that she's bisexual in the finale. No. Adora confesses her love to another girl, and when they kiss, that reminds Adora of the power of love and ultimately saves the whole universe. The world would have literally ended if Adora was straight. And that's what really sets She-Ra above the rest as perfect queer representation, because it doesn't just have 1 or 2 gay side characters, it doesn't have an awful queer-baited romance, it has a gay main character who saves the day with the power of love. And the other thing She-Ra does really well is it removes pretty much all labels. While I have been referring to characters with words like gay and straight, those don't exist within the world of She-Ra. Adora never has to come out to anybody, she's just in love with Catra and people accept that. When Scorpia had a crush on Catra, she didn't have to jump through all the mental hoops of wondering if Catra was also a lesbian, she just pined for her. This is why I love She-Ra and shows that follow this same logic. While it is nice to see characters say the words, "I'm gay," the world She-Ra creates is almost a utopia for queer people. A world where sexualities aren't labeled and people just love who they love without any fear of judgment. This also normalizes being queer for the younger audience, making it seem like not a big deal. If a small gay child were to watch a show where all the people like them had to face bullying and adversity, they would only fear their sexuality more. But She-Ra sends the message to all the small gays that their feelings are perfectly normal, and sometimes girls fall in love with girls and boys fall in love with boys, and it's all just love. Throughout the first 4 seasons, there were people who accused She-Ra of queerbaiting, which is when a show or movie will hint at 2 characters being gay but never actually have them together, like Keith and Lance, Becca and Chloe, Steve and Bucky, or Poe and Finn. However, She-Ra does not queerbait. Throughout the first 4 seasons, Catra and Adora go from best friends to sworn enemies, as Adora leaves the Horde to join the rebellion while Catra stays behind and eventually is practically running the Horde. In season 5, Catra says that she has always loved Adora and just didn't think Adora loved her back, and re-watching the first 4 seasons with this in mind is heart-wrenching. Every time Catra helps Adora or tries to get her to rejoin the Horde, it is all out of her love for her. Catra's main character flaw is her inability to open up about her emotions and be vulnerable, which is why it is such a big moment for her to finally admit her feelings to Adora, and it makes the viewer wonder what would have happened if Catra had said something before the events of the show. What if in Thamor, when Adora asked Catra to go with her, Catra admitted to being in love with Adora, and Adora reciprocated the feeling? Then Catra wouldn't have taken over the Horde, Hordak wouldn't have built the portal, and Horde Prime would have never showed up. And this is why the show wasn't queerbaiting, and it never was. Catra is terrified of showing her emotions and wearing her heart on her sleeve. It would have been so out of character for Catra in the first 4 seasons to have confessed her feelings to Adora. Only season 5 Catra was able to do this because by season 5 Catra was so hurt and alone and scared. If she didn't open up about how she felt, she would just be hurting herself even more. Adora is also a similar story. While Adora isn't afraid to share her feelings, she is afraid of Catra. Adora essentially watches her childhood best friend turn into a power-hungry dictator, into someone she knows Catra isn't. Adora still loves Catra, but is ultimately putting the war first because her character is incredibly selfless. Catra is her enemy first and her crush second. She can't tell Catra she cares about her because she thinks Catra will just use that against her to manipulate her and make the rebellion lose. And that's why Adora is almost immediately ready to forgive Catra after hearing Catra saved Glimmer. Catra is now no longer Adora's enemy, and Adora is finally getting her best friend back. Adora didn't have to be around for Catra's heroic sacrifice for Glimmer, she just needed to hear that it happened, and that was enough for her to turn the ship around and go back for Catra. She wasn't abandoning her enemy on Horde's Prime ship anymore. She was abandoning the girl she cared about most. When Adora jumped off that giant ledge to save Catra, Catra had actually done almost nothing to prove she was no longer a bad person to Adora. Adora was just that willing to believe it because she loved Catra and was thrilled to have her back. This is why She-Ra's representation is so amazing, because the love story is so deep and complex and heartbreaking but heartwarming that it is almost better than any love story I've seen between any straight couple. And the fact that this is told with a lesbian romance is absolutely groundbreaking for the entire children's animation industry. If She-Ra can be so successful with a lesbian main character and an entire cast of LGBT side characters, What is the excuse studios will use now on why they refused to even put a single queer character in the background? She-Ra has set the bar so incredibly high for not just LGBT representation, but for shows in general. And while I'll continue to enjoy the current shows I'm watching and keeping up with, I'm not entirely sure if I'll ever find something that fills my heart as much as She-Ra does. Just to see a piece of media that is so unapologetically queer is something I don't think we'll get again for a while. Unless we get that Lumberjanes show Noelle teased on Twitter. So thank you so much for watching this video, and if you like She-Ra or other cartoons, please subscribe. I'll definitely be doing more videos on She-Ra in the future because it is just such an incredible show, and I have so many ideas for videos about She-Ra, so stay tuned for those. Anyway, I hope you have a great day, and let's hope we get more spectacular queer representation in the media.